He's called me venomous.
We will fight back to your attempt to bring Trumpism to New York City.
He's called me disgraceful.
Of the fact that they stole the Supreme Court seat. An illegitimate president and an illegitimate member of the United States Supreme Court.
He's called me radical.
Listen, yes. We know he's crazy. Yes. We know he doesn't have a sound mind. Yes. We know he's out of control. Yes. We know he's losing it. Yes. We know his days are numbered and we will come together.
He's called me a racist.
We've got to stand up to an administration which is too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale. Too male, too pale, and too stale.
Hey, welcome in everybody. Who can remember the Tish James? Who can't forget? You can't forget the Tish James highlights as she literally campaigns on going after a United States citizen. No, not in prosecuting a criminal. No, literally in going after a U.S. citizen to find a crime. Talk about Soviet tactics. We are going to investigate the man and we will find a crime. Oh, gee, how did that happen? So now what we have is breaking news today. We have Trump winning all over the place. Welcome into Courageous Media. Thanks so much for joining me. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Please smash that like button, hit the bell, turn on the notifications, subscribe if you haven't already. But let's get into the massive breaking news that happened this morning coming out of the New York Appellate Court. Before we do that, before we get into the actual news, which I think you know what it is, but let's just take a little trip down memory lane. This video was posted several times, but remember when the oral arguments were actually, clips of them were actually put on the internet. So what's amazing is that this verdict took this long. But don't forget that this is what the New York Appellate Court had to say to the representative of the Attorney General's office. Check this out.
Beneath all these questions, the question of mission creep has 6312 morphed into something that it was not meant to do.
All of the defendants repeatedly violated.
Ms. Vail, can you identify any previous case in which the Attorney General sued under Executive Law 6312 to upset a private business transaction that was between equally sophisticated partners?
And it was using...
I'm sorry, but what's being described sounds an awful lot like a potential commercial dispute between private actors.
I mean, you've got two really sophisticated parties in which no one lost any money. The case that you cite involved where there was damage to consumers, damage to the marketplace. You've got a scheme to get unsophisticated consumers to take out home loans. You got a collapse of Lehman Brothers. You don't have anything like that here.
And that's something you must address, because there has to be some limitation on what the Attorney General can do in interfering in these private transactions, as Justice Friedman said, that where people don't claim harm. So what is the limiting principle? The immense penalty in this case is troubling.
An appeals court has just thrown out President Donald Trump's $364 million civil fraud penalty. This just happened. It is a developing story. We're getting a lot more information, a big news story for the day.
So what took so long? Realize that that video was posted of the appellate court's oral arguments 11 months ago, close to it. Absolutely amazing stuff when you consider that there was no victim in this case, yet they brought it anyway. Deutsche Bank, the primary lender, they didn't press charges. They didn't sue for fraud. They didn't do anything. In fact, when asked in court, would you do it again? They said, heck yeah, we made all kinds of money. When asked what their valuation of Mar-a-Lago was, it was higher than President Trump's. When any army of independent insurance or real estate specialists were asked what the value of Mar-a-Lago was, it was north of $1 billion, less than what President Trump had said. So this case from the get-go was an act. I mean, I'll give it to her. Tish James made good on her campaign promises to her ridiculous Trump deranged, uber liberal New York friends when she said, I will go after Trump. I will find something to get him with. The problem is what she found wasn't an actual crime. What she did was she created a fake crime and then manipulated the justice system. She got a judge who absolutely did not let Trump defend himself, a judge that completely threw his weight on the scales because, oh, by the way, his daughter was making millions of dollars fundraising because of this case. So she basically mobilized a corrupt New York justice system where everybody had their hand on the scales in order to get a judgment, a civil judgment against Donald Trump to the tune of $500 million, $500 million. Well, that judgment has been summarily smacked down, and Tish James has been publicly slapped by the appellate court. They didn't come back and say, hey, you're right. Trump did commit fraud, and we just think this, the judgment's a little too high. We're going to cut it down from, 350 million plus penalties and interest down to, 75 million. No. They threw the whole thing out. They have publicly humiliated Tish James. Check this out as we'll dive into Fox News on their reporting on this story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Before we dive into this, really appreciate everybody rolling up. Political Fisherman in the house. Nick Burgundy in the house. Wanda Kirby, thanks so much for being here. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Check this out.
Group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case. Let's get some thoughts from Andy McCarthy. He's a former U.S. attorney. He is a Fox News contributor. He is on the phone with us. And last summer, you were helping us every single day as President Trump sat in that courtroom. Letitia James, the AG, she happened to be there as well. And at the time, I remember, Andy, you said that you thought this could be the outcome once the appellate court got a hold of it. What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I think, Dana, that Trump may be ultimately completely exonerated on this. For now, the penalty goes. There was division in the appeals court about the merits of the underlying suit. But as you point out, what they found basically under an Eighth Amendment theory, that's the amendment that prohibits cruel and unusual punishments, there was such a mismatch between whatever wrong was actually established in the trial and the outrageous penalty that was imposed for it, which was, I think, $355 million, which with interest and other costs is already up to about $530 million.
So what we've got is we have got Tish James absolutely getting smacked by the appellate court. Now, they did not throw out the actual verdict, not yet. There was disagreement on the appellate court on that. But when you talk to legal analysts, it is heading in that direction where the entire judgment itself will get vacated, the entire verdict. So in this particular case, the penalty has been reduced to 0. All penalties gone. So Trump doesn't have to pay a dime. From reading the decision, him and his family are allowed to do business in New York again. All of that, all of the penalty aspect of this has been vacated. But what this does is it also opens the door to the prosecution of the third case against Letitia James. Realize that while all this was going on, while Tish James was making good on her corrupt campaign promise to go after a U.S. citizen, a former sitting president, to go get him, to find something on him, which is absolutely illegal. That's prosecutorial misconduct at a T. But while she was making good on that campaign promise, she herself, it looks like now, has violated a plethora of laws in 3 major cases that the DOJ is now going after Tish James for. Number one, the one that everybody is aware of, Tish James looks like she is absolutely guilty of multiple counts of federal mortgage fraud. Now, where she went after Donald Trump for a trumped up civil violation, this is a federal crime. This is uh, fraud on a major scale because she did it over and over and over again. Everybody knows about her house in Virginia where she claimed that was her principal residence, when it can't be because she lives in New York. So that is one major case. The other is for years and years, she claimed her 5-unit tenement house as a 4-unit house. Building, because that keeps it as a residential building, it's residential classification, which means she gets residential mortgage rates backed by federal dollars. It means she gets preferential treatment from the New York regulatory authority. She doesn't have to comply with commercial codes. She doesn't have to get commercial insurance. And she did that for years. And then there's the final element of the mortgage fraud, where she evidently applied with her father, claiming they were husband and wife. So she's got major issues with mortgage fraud. The second area of inquiry from the DOJ is actual corruption charges and misuse of campaign funds, first-class trips, all sorts of things. We've got that going on. And now finally, with this judgment from the appellate court, the DOJ has also opened an investigation into Letitia James and the New York AG's office for violation of Donald Trump's 8th Amendment rights. So this is going to get really, really ugly for Tish James. If there is any justice, she will go to prison for federal mortgage fraud. And then there will also be trials for her violating Donald Trump's 8th Amendment rights. There absolutely needs to be some accountability for her literally going after a U.S. citizen to find a crime, which is prosecutorial misconduct. But we're going to see how all this shakes out. Let me know what you think in the comments. What should happen to Big Tish James? What will happen to Big Tish James? Those are two very big questions. Nikki Burgundy, Letitia James should get 20 years in prisons and her license stripped. Absolutely. She should never practice law again, number one. She should never be an elected official, an AG again. Christy Lee, she should be hauled away. Yes, I want to see people perp walked. Absolutely. Handcuffs, the press, the whole 9 yards. So we've got this going on with Big Tish James. She's getting smacked down. At the same time, the overall Democrat Party is getting smacked down. It's absolutely amazing stuff. Before we get into our next story of the day, please hit that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit that notification bell. Even if you've already subscribed, go back and check your notifications. YouTube loves to turn them off for people, especially when it's conservative content. So like, comment, subscribe. Let us know how we're doing. Now let's dive into our next story. You know that we've all been covering the fleeing Democrats, the Texas Democrats who fled Texas to the uber gerrymandered states of New York, Massachusetts, and Illinois in order to basically derail the democratic process. So in order to protect democracy, they essentially spat on democracy and stopped it from happening inside Texas. Well, all those people eventually FAFO'd to the point that they returned. They returned late last week, early this week, and the inevitable happened. Let's check in with some Texas politics right here in my own home state. Good stuff. Here we go.
Occurs on passage to engrossment of House Bill 4. This is a record vote. Clerk, ring the bell. Serves 100 voting aye. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? 88 ayes, 52 nays. House Bill 4 passes to engrossment. Members, it is the intent of the chair.
88 to 52, House Bill 4 passes in the Texas State House, which redraws the district lines in the state of Texas, essentially netting the Republicans 5 new seats. So the new district breakdown essentially all but ensures that Texas Republicans will occupy 30 of Texas's 38 congressional seats. Democrats only getting 8. And it does 2 major things. One, it nets the Republicans 5 essentially, solid red seats in the midterms. So that's +5 for the Republicans, -5 for the Democrats. And as you all know, there are 435 seats in the House of Representatives. The Republicans have been holding a slim 2, 3, 4, 5 seat majority, depending on the status of special elections. Essentially, 218 is what they need for a majority. They've got 220 to essentially 215. Right now, I think it's 220 to 213 because there are 2 pending special elections. So we've got 220 to 213. Well, as we head into the midterms, this essentially moves that balance to 225 to 208, meaning what this means for the midterms is that the Republicans really only need to win 3 what they call toss-up or contested seats. They need to win 3 contested districts across the country out of 435 in order to maintain the House, in order to block the Democrats from getting the speakership, in order to block the inevitable investigation, impeachment nonsense that we got in the second half of Trump's first term. So while this is going on, you've got the California, Gavin Newsom is trying to do the same thing in California. He's vowing that he's going to redistrict California, which has already been gerrymandered almost out of existence, in order to reclaim those 5 seats. However, they're facing some serious problems. Before we draw out, I want to get into the Fox take on this, and then we're going to get into the California situation as we talk about everything that's going on with redistricting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Bob, about time. Exactly. It's about time the Republicans started to learn how to fight this fight. Let's dive in with the Fox News report on this. Here we go.
Breaking tonight, Texas Republican legislators have just won their fight over redistricting. Just moments ago, the state House vote is now final. The bill aims to provide 5 additional congressional seats for the GOP. Correspondent Garrett Tenney shows us what's happening from Austin, Texas tonight. Good evening, Garrett.
So, what we've got is the Republicans now netting 5 seats. Now let's dive into what California is trying to do in order to countermand this, at least what Newsom is trying to do, which is going to be very hard for him because, check this out.
California lawmakers returned to Sacramento today. They're back in session, and they're going to be taking up this issue of redistricting. And so Republican lawmakers for sure had a lot to say today. Some of them are even calling for a federal investigation to determine exactly how congressional Democrats and California Democrats came up with these new boundaries that are, again, intended to neutralize the gains that Texas could make in 2026. Now, this week is set to have a series of public hearings. We're going to be hearing from Californians, and the cost of having a special election is also going to be discussed. Now, lawmakers are set to vote on this proposed map on Thursday, and if it passes, then a special election would be held on November 4th. But again, lawmakers and congressional Democrats are stressing that this is only going to happen if Texas approves its maps and they end up going forward with these efforts.
Well, other states around the country, they've also been following the steps here from Texas and California. Which states stand out there, and which party can benefit the most?
For now, we can say for certain it's Texas and California that have actually proposed maps, each one determining who would be affected by this and who could make gains here. Now, it's hard to say at this moment which party is going to end up benefiting, but we do know that for Democrats, it does represent additional challenges because some blue states have independent commissions. It's not so easy for them to just go in and make these new lines for their congressional districts. But we know that there are at least 7 states, either blue or red, that have expressed interest or intentions to redraw their congressional districts. And this, of course, includes Florida and Ohio that is also set to redistrict their congressional districts. So we know.
So what you've got is you've got Newsom basically saying, okay, so Texas did this, which Texas has a right to do. And Texas is allowed to do this via their legislature. Newsom, who basically has independent redistricting commissions in California, which are staffed by, let's face it, 5 uber left liberal Democrats and 5 rhino TDS Republicans. So they don't face a whole lot of pushback from the independent commission, but they're only allowed to do it every 10 years. And that's part of the state constitution. So you've got Newsom trying to get a special election called for this year to propose what would be a ballot measure for the voters to allow him to redistrict mid-decade. Right now, that is only facing a 36% approval among California voters. So he's facing a huge uphill battle. However, his saber rattling and his nonsense, vengeance plan has actually gotten other red states to start to go on the offense in this. Now you've got Indiana, you've got Ohio, you've got Texas, and you've got North Carolina talking about they're going to redistrict, and they don't have independent commissions. They don't have ballot measures that prevent them from doing this. Indiana could potentially redistrict +1 Republican. Ohio can redistrict +2 Republican. Florida, according to their maps, they can redistrict +5 Republican. North Carolina thinks they can redistrict about +4 Republican. So now you're talking another, let's say, 12 seats. So even if California manages to get a ballot measure through, which looks very iffy at this point, and they can get rid of, and they can go +4 Democrat, you've now got Texas +5, you've got +12 from the other Republicans, that's 17, -4, you've still got a +13 advantage to the Republicans. And if Gavin Newsom goes through with this, it all but assures that those Republican states go on the offense, which means now you're looking not at a 225, to 225 to 210 sort of shakeout in the House, but now you're looking at 230 to 205. It gets even worse. So the Republicans are learning how to play offense. They're learning how to play the game. They're learning how to govern. And if the Republican states pull this off, which Texas already has, they can cement Republican control of the House for decades to come, because they can literally redistrict the Democrats out of power. Because the Republicans, if all the red states go into redistricting, you're looking at a +40 Republican. Right now, the Supreme Court is set to weigh in on race-based gerrymandering and essentially overturn it, which would force all of the states to redraw their lines, getting rid of race-based districting, which will help the Republicans. And it allow the Republican states to essentially redistrict +20 to 40. So they could literally redistrict the Democrats out of House power, therefore out of all branches of government. So they would never have 3 branches of government going generations from now. So this is absolutely amazing news. Let me know what you think in the comments. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. We've got the Republicans absolutely winning, creating just havoc for the Democrats, and the Democrats lampooning themselves, making fools of themselves. You had Representative Collier, who essentially refused to sign a statement allowing her to be escorted by DPS. When all the Democrats came back from their little junkets to Illinois, the Speaker of the Texas House said, okay, fine, you're here now, but you cannot go home. You cannot leave the Texas State building, either your office or the House floor, unless you're willing to sign a statement saying you will be escorted by DPS in case you try to flee again, because obviously you're a flight risk. Well, one representative failed to do that. She refused, and they locked her in the State House. You can't leave. And so she was trying to do Zoom calls, crying Zoom calls with Cory Loser Booker and Gavin Newsom, and it did not come off well. The Democrat voters looked at her and said, wait a minute, all you have to do, you get paid tons of money to literally show up and vote, and you can't even do that. So now they are losing Democrat voters in bushels. And that's our last story that we're going to dive into. Before we do that, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you like the content, please share Courageous Media with everybody that you know. And if you're willing, jump in with us. Become a member of the Courageous Army on YouTube. Hit that join button right now. Really appreciate everybody being here. So with all this happening, you've got the Republicans winning, Trump winning, and the Democrats in absolute disarray, and they are getting crushed. Just check out one of the major wins in the last few days from the Trump administration and how that's translated into polls and more Democrat losses. Check this out.
is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance.
Of course, that was the White House's video on the meeting with Zelensky, his meeting with the European leaders following the Trump-Putin summit, as Trump attempts to end the Ukraine war. It's absolutely amazing where they, what Trump has been able to accomplish here in just the last 6 months. 7 conflicts ended. I was trying to count up all 7 conflicts. I got most of them. You've got the Cambodia, I believe it was Cambodia, Laos. He ended that. He ended India, Pakistan. He ended Armenia, Azerbaijan. He ended the Israel-Iran conflict. He ended the Rwanda, Congo conflict. So that's 5 right there. Now you got, there's another one that I can't think of right now, but that gets you to about 6. You're talking Ukraine, it'd be 7. So Trump is absolutely the peace president, something that they never thought. Republicans were always the warmongers, right? That was the general thought, especially among the media. But now the tables have completely turned. The Democrats have become the warmonger, deep state, military-industrial complex, never found a war they didn't like because they figured out they could launder money through them. And the American people have had enough. And it's videos like that, and it's scenes like that, where we see Donald Trump acting on behalf of the American people to keep us out of wars, that has absolutely flipped the script on all of this. Check this out, because this has got people talking, and it's also got the Trump train rolling once again as the economy still improves incrementally. It's going to hit turbo when we get rates down. When all this investment starts to pour into the country and rates come down, you're going to see the economy go into turbo action. So figure that latter half of this year. We'll probably get a 25 bip decrease from the Fed this year. Powell will get replaced next year, and then we'll probably see 50 to 100 bips in 26, and this economy will absolutely start running. But check this out, because all of this, everything that's happened, from the Dems lampooning themselves over redistricting, the Dems lampooning themselves over wokeness, the Dems being leaderless and rudderless and literally picking Jasmine Crockett as one of their leaders, which was the other major thing that the redistricting did, is it redistricted Jasmine Crockett right out of her seat. She can't run in her initial district unless she moves, because she doesn't live there anymore. And the district that she now lives in is a Democrat district, but it's got an incumbent. So if she wants to run in that district, she's got to primary a Democrat incumbent. And if she goes to the new district, they've reworked that so they include 200,000 red voters from Tarrant County. So she's not going to win that seat. So hopefully, if nothing else, Texas's redistricting means we don't ever have to see Jasmine Crotchett's face ever again, giving some dumb soundbite as a congresswoman. But the other thing it's done is it has catapulted Trump on the approval scale. Check this out.
What, are you kidding me? 56% approval in a brand new Rasmussen poll for President Trump. 56% of the American people think he's doing a great job. That is a landslide. That is awesome. And you consider everything he's up against and everything he's going through and everything that, all the innovation that he's come up with and the constant loud opposition of the media, and his numbers at 56%. You know who that beats? Ronald Reagan at this point in his second term, just 52%. It reminds me, the Gipper and President Trump together. Isn't this an amazing picture? The two of them at some function at the White House. Look at that. We've got the 40th president and the 45th and the 47th president all in one spot. It's pretty awesome. So, 56%. That is historic. I always knew that actually President Trump's vision would be popular. What's really not to like about it? When you get through all of the rhetoric and the distortions, make America great again, having borders, not sexualizing children, not getting into forever wars and then not winning them, it just has mass appeal. And you think about where he was a year ago, not even a year ago. He was still going through all of this nonsense, all of this crap. And today, 56% in the polls.
Absolutely, 56% approval. And all of those cases have essentially died with the overturning of the $500 million judgment earlier today. So Trump is killing it. Trump is identifying with the American voters. MAGA is real. The MAGA revolution is real. And people are jumping on board from the Democrat Party. You've got a 56% approval. You've also got Eric Doherty citing different. We got different polls talking about the same thing. So you got Eric Doherty looking at this one. Trump 54 to 44, so he's plus 10. I believe this is Insight. So you've got the two most accurate pollsters with Trump up big time in the polls. The Trump approval is absolutely massive. And what that means, there are two things that are affecting the Democrat Party right now as we roll into the midterms. And before we do that, Lynn Sanger, thanks so much for rolling up. Really appreciate you getting here. Christy Lee, we cannot allow them to ever weasel or cheat again. Exactly. Lynn Sanger, you are late, but better late than never. Absolutely. Welcome in. All right. So we got two major trend lines that are crushing the Democrats right now, other than the fact that they are blind, stupid, dumb, idiotic, woke, leaderless, rudderless, agendaless. I mean, they are absolutely in disarray internally. But as we roll into the midterms, you've got two major things going on. Number one, you've got the Trump approval rating at 56% right now. Now that approval rating, obviously, it's sine waves up and down. But one of the primary predictors of a midterm election is the presidential approval. If it is south, if it is underwater, if it is below 50%, the average is the party in power loses about 30 seats. If the presidential approval is above 50%, then the average is they only lose up to 7, but they can actually gain. So things are going big time for President Trump in that arena. The other thing that's happening is because of the Democrats' woke nonsense and their internal disarray, and what Trump is doing from a MAGA revolution, you've got huge voter registration shifts. We've got an absolute generational shift in American philosophy that's going on right now. Check this out from the New York Times. This is a major groundbreaking story. New York Times says Democrat Party is collapsing. Now, what they're talking about here is outside of the ballot box. The Democrat Party is collapsing in terms of voter registrations. So the Democrat Party is, they cited there are 30 states that track voter registrations by party affiliation, Republican, Democrat, Independent. And the Democrats in those 30 states have lost ground to the Republicans. This is the New York Times. Now remember, this is the New York Times that never found a lib, woke, pro-Democrat story it didn't like, that actually invented pro-Democrat stories, that created stories out of whole cloth, that would never, ever try to report on something that would benefit Trump. But here they are being forced to report some very disturbing facts. And that is, in those 30 states that track voter registration by party affiliation, the Republicans have picked up ground and the Democrats have lost ground in most, no. Almost all, no. In every single state, all 30 states, the Republicans have gained ground. The Republicans are winning the voter registration war. Democrats are flipping to Republicans by the droves. And this is extremely important because the other thing that we see that is a predictor of voter behavior, voters vote their party registration almost exclusively In the upper 90s, they vote their party registration. So if the Republicans are winning the party registration game, they are going to be winning the next elections. And so what you've got is you've got the Republicans setting up for a potential landslide in the midterms. You've got the Trump approval rating that is north of 50. You've got the Republican Party gaining party registrations in every single state. Now, check this out. Because just so you know, just to kind of give you a feel for how this is working, check this out from Red Eagle Politics, which talks about Pennsylvania. We talked about this a lot in the lead up to the 2025 election or 2024 election. And that is voter registrations in the state of Pennsylvania, which now Pennsylvania tends to vote to the right of its voter registrations, but it's done that the whole time. That's because there's a very large swath of independents in there. But you remember in 2016, Donald Trump carried the state, even though the Democrats had a plus almost a million voter advantage in voter registrations. The Democrats were plus 916,000. Trump won the state. In 2020, the Democrats had a 686,000 voter registration advantage. Trump only lost the state by 80,000 votes or 50,000 in Pennsylvania. Well, during that time, from the 2020 to 2024, people like Scott Pressler and others, the Democrats hemorrhaged 400,000. So the Republicans made up a 400,000 voter registration advantage. By November 24, Trump won Pennsylvania going away. It wasn't even close. Not like it was in 2020. Trump won it going away. That trend is continuing. We're now down to 174. We are on track to flip to a Republican registration advantage by the 26 midterms, which means Pennsylvania would be a solid red state in the 28 presidential election. And it means that you could expect more Republican seats in representing Pennsylvania in Congress. So you've got massive voter registration shifts. You've got the Trump approval rating leading potentially to a huge loss for the Democrats in the 26 midterms. And so this is big, big news. Really appreciate. Let me know what you think in the comments. Lynn Sanger, tons. Absolutely. You guys are awesome. Really appreciate everybody rolling up. Thanks for being here. Sorry we've been out for a couple days, had some other things to do, but really appreciate everybody rolling up. Trump is winning. The Republicans are winning. Tish James gets smacked. It is a great day to be a MAGA Republican and an American citizen. Really appreciate everybody being here. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Courageous Media with everybody that you know. Until I catch you next time, have a great day.